founder of a menswear brand based here in New York called Zachary Prell. I have a really unconventional background. Prior to starting our brand, I worked in the finance industry for about 10 years. And all throughout that period, I was wearing business casual workwear, and my clothing really didn't fit me well, and I wanted to be able to have a wardrobe that kind of moved with me through the workday to the evening and into the weekend. And as a consumer, I really just had an idea and a vision for how I would create a more modern silhouette. We started with sport shirts, and we kind of went from there, and I had absolutely no background or experience at all in the fashion industry. I simply really had an idea and I guess a desire to want to see it through. And flash forward 10 years later, we were a nationally distributed brand, selling in nearly 100 doors at Nordstrom, Saks, Bloomingdale's, Neiman Marcus, Trunk Club, as well as our own website and personal styling appointments at our showroom here in New York.
My name is Judy Wong. I'm the owner of Paws in Paradise. It's a doggy daycare, one-stop shopping facility. We sell retail, we do pet sitting, dog walking, boarding, daycare, grooming. Why I made the jump? Well, I worked 19 years in the corporate world, and I might have been burnt out, or else I just didn't like my bosses. But I decided to do something that I loved, which was dogs. I have my own dog, and every time we go on business trips, I have to find a place to put her. So I figured I can do this. I took a course in grooming, and it was a 100-hour course which I took a vacation to do. And then I just found that I like talking to the dogs more than I like talking to my bosses. I gave me the go-ahead, and that's why I kind of switched jobs.
My name is Carlos Basal. I'm basically an entrepreneur. I was born as an entrepreneur. I run a company. We produce live stream events anywhere from fashion to investor relations, finance, and several other different industries. Why I became an entrepreneur, I don't know if you remember the PC Junior. The PC Junior was the first personal computer that IBM launched in 1984. I was working in IBM then, and most of the old executives were saying, "What is this, machine? It will never work. They are the mainframes and all the other big computers." And we were a bunch of young people, and we say, "Oh, maybe we can connect all these computers to one another, and we can start, doing new things." And so 3 of us quit. I came to the United States, got my MBA, and here I am running my own company. That's in a shortcut how I became an entrepreneur.
I fell into being an entrepreneur. I'm Kathy Terrell. I'm a professional actress here in New York, and that's why I came here. I graduated Northwestern University. That's why I was talking to you guys about dance. So, and I'm classically trained, which means Shakespeare and Ibsen and Chekhov, which makes you zero money. It used to make money when I was getting the training, and then I came to New York, and everybody discovered other things. But I did great, and God really blessed me, because I got work with all my children, One Life to Live, Another World. I'm dating myself before reality TV, but there used to be a ton of soap operas that shot in the city. So I did very, very well. I was nurses, I was businesswoman, I had parts, I played a crazy drunk on all my children, I had a lot of fun, very upscale crazy drunk. Did the Law and Order, there's a million Law and Orders, God bless Dick Wolf. I was a regular stenographer on Law and Order, I was on Law and Order Special Victims Unit, I was, and Nancy Reagan's sort of protester, which was fun. I got to spend the day with Ice-T, and it was very nice. So what happened was I landed on QVC, and it was because I was doing merchandising and displays for a couple of different products, and one of the products, the national sales manager didn't want to be on QVC anymore, because back in the day, this is the 80s, it wasn't the she poo-poo thing that it is now, where everybody is killing themselves to be on QVC. It was nobody wanted to be on QVC. So I landed on there, and long story short, I did that for a while, and then my mom started to get sick, and my mom was in New York City, and I was in New York City. And the rest of my siblings live on the West Coast, and I was desperately trying to find something that was flexible enough that I could take care of my mom, because I was very committed to doing that. I did not want to hand her off to somebody else to take care of. I was very strong on, I wanted to be at the ER when she was there. And I mean, businesses are much better than they used to be, but it is very hard when you're standing on set in Westchester, Pennsylvania to go, excuse me, I need to go to Manhattan and rent an emergency room to be with my mother. Because they need you to do your job, and I totally understand that. And same thing with theater, you can't be on stage, excuse me, I need to rent an emergency room. Because mom had congestive heart failure complicated by diabetes, and she was in and out of the hospital every 3 to 4 weeks for almost 3 years. So, I have a very wonderful husband. I said to him, I gotta come home, I can't do this, it's making me crazy. And he said, sure. So, I literally just started selling stuff around the house. It was like, oh, let's just, let's declutter, okay, and make some money. And I started selling on eBay, because I was like, I didn't want to do a yard sale in Manhattan. And I started making money. Oh my God, I can make money selling our stuff, this is great. So I kept selling our stuff and taking care of mom, and then mom moved out to California, and my business really exploded. I had worked part-time retail for years. It was my day job while I was working as an actress. So I had a lot of retail experience, but I didn't realize I had retail experience. And I bring it up because you might have a lot of skills that you're not aware of. Like you think, oh, I'm a secretary, I'm making stuff up, or I'm a waitress, or I'm not going to say MBA because I don't have an MBA. But you could be a parent, you could be a grandparent, you could be somebody who's very good at computer programming. But whatever your skill set is you don't realize your other skill sets. You don't realize that you have customer service skills. You don't realize that you have, you're great at spotting trends, which I think living in New York, a lot of us are, we don't realize it. And it's not until you're put into the position all of a sudden of doing a business in that, you're like, oh, I know about this. I know about spotting trends. Like developing, going, this is what I want in my clothing. I can't find it anywhere in my clothing. I'm going to develop this in my clothing. So it's having that kind of foresight and then sort of going into it. So for me I had a theater background. That's what I knew, theater and film, and I like old films. And at the time, everything was still VHS. We didn't have all the DVDs we have now, and now everything's streaming. So there was a lot of vintage VHS that wasn't available on DVD, and it was worth a lot of money. So I'd run around to all these thrift shops because I knew all these actors, because these are the movies that I watched. These are the people that I studied, when I was in drama school. And these VHSs, which were at the Salvation Army, I could get for $1, were selling on eBay for $40 and $50. I was like this with my bag, and my business started because it was something that I knew. And it was something that I could then scale. Then Turner Classics bought all them out, forget it, I had $100 worth of VHS I had to get rid of. But what I'm saying is start with what you know, okay? Like, you didn't have a fashion background, but knew what kind of clothing you wanted. So start with something that you know or something that you have a passion for, and then start to move out from that. So for my thing was, I wanted to make money, and I wanted to make money that was flexible. I had nobody talked about entrepreneurship back then, it was a home business. And I fell into it. And then it was learn. And I took every class I could get my hands on that was free. And I watched every CNBC money show there is. I watched The Profit, Billionaire Buyer, what are the other ones that are on? But I mean, you name it and I watched it because you learn, Shark Tank, of course. Every single one, there's a nugget in there. Either they failed for a reason or they succeeded for a reason. It's on knowing numbers, it's on spotting trends, it's scaling, it's not scaling. It's getting the website, not getting the website. So for me was start with what I knew and then just jump in and scale it. If all you have is the $50, you start with the $50. If all you have is $10,000, you start with the $10,000. And don't wait for the perfect moment because there is no such thing. it's the same thing with the theater, you know, the perfect role is like, just audition, just get the clothes on, go out the door, go to the audition. And it's very much the same thing with entrepreneurship, just go. I just got 2 jobs offered in an area that I didn't even realize I knew anything about, and I'm like, oh, I could do that, sure. And then I Google, I call my friends, how much should I charge for this? Oh, okay, that sounds good. They hired me, I'm like, this is great, so.
What was the hardest part from going from having like your work defined for you versus having to, well, define it for yourself every day and respond to the challenges? Is there
From a structured environment in business school where I was surrounded by my peers and it was a really inspiring environment every day, and then graduation came and then boom, it's like you're on your own. And so I remember, I'll never forget, I was sitting in I lived on the Upper West Side at the time, and I was in my apartment, and the excitement of graduation wore off, and it was like the Monday after graduation, and I was just sitting there alone in at my desk, and I think that it can be overwhelming. My goal was to start the next kind of major menswear brand in the industry. And that's really what my goal was from the beginning, and I think that in and of itself was too large, and I had to step back and go, okay, what do I need to do? I need to, use the structure of my past life and apply it to what I wanted to do going forward, and so that meant really kind of making a plan and going about, how do you start a brand? Well, I needed to figure out who was going to make the product for me, so I had to figure out the factory relationships, and I really looked at all these problems with how do I, it's a puzzle, and I needed to have pieces to this puzzle, and so it was factory relationships. Okay, I don't really know factories. Okay, so I got on a plane and I went to China by myself and tried to figure it out. And then what fabric was I going to use? Okay, I don't really know any fabric manufacturers or mills, so I cold called them all. And I think that, each one of these steps was like completely foreign, but I think that if you have a plan and you take this structured environment where you've been working in and you realize that it's about getting things done and you can apply that to your own project, I think it's really about like just taking one step at a time and having these bite-sized goals so that every day you can kind of check something off of your list so you feel like you're making progress. Otherwise, it feels super overwhelming, and I know that feeling because I've been there. I still feel overwhelmed. I feel overwhelmed for different reasons now. But I think that the first step really is coming to the realization that you're going to be on your own doing this. In fact, you might actually be the only one that believes in your vision. I can tell you firsthand, again, I alluded to this, like my family thought I was like bananas. And my grandfather was like, why can't you just stay in finance? And like, and I wanted to chart a different path. And I kind of took one step at a time, but I definitely credit my past work experience, not necessarily the finance experience, but like the structure that the jobs helped with going forward, and that was really providing me with a framework for how to like problem solve. And I really believe that whatever it is that you guys are thinking about doing, it's really taking one step at a time and identifying how you're going to overcome all the challenges to get that new company off the ground.
When I decided to leave IBM, I was kind of unhappy with the whole, polyduro kind of mentality. I called my uncle. My uncle is an engineer. He came to the United States to work for NASA. And so he told me, he asked me a couple of questions. One of the questions he asked me is, when you go to work, how many times you want to change something at your job? All the time. So you're ready. you need to come to United States. First of all, you need to get a good education, so people will relate to you because of the kind of education you will have, and you understand the business language, jargon, and how you do business in the US. And second, you need to start working. And then I said, well, how can I work without having the papers? Because back then it was also an issue. And he said, well, you can work for me, and you start learning how to do business in the US. So I started working for him, and one day I met a person at the coffee shop, and he looked at me. He says, "Oh, you speak Spanish?" I was talking Spanish with my uncle. He said, "Yeah, of course." He says, "Do you cut grass? You mow grass?" I says, "No." But, why do you ask me a question? Because I need someone. Will you be able to do it for me? He says, "Well, yes." Why not? You have a machine. They says, "No, but I get one for you." So I started cutting grass, and then this man was very kind, was a 70-plus-year-old man, and he said to me, "Oh, you're very good at what you do. So I'm going to recommend you to a friend of mine." So I got a second client, zero lead generation cost. I was very happy. And this man said to me, "Oh, you're very good, I like it. I'm going to go to school," and they took really care of me. And I learned then that a client is just the most beautiful thing you can have, because you have a happy client, we get another client. So I was learning as you go, and then I got my MBA, and my uncle told me, being an entrepreneur is like going to climb a mountain. You want to go to Everest, you might need 2 to 3 years, and these are all the steps you need to take in order to get to the top. If you don't do it right, you're going to fail, you're going to come back, and then you might even die in the way. So I followed his advice, and I did quite fine, and my uncle is fine. He retired in Florida, and he always called me, and he always, in his spirit, he was an entrepreneur himself, despite the fact that he was an engineer working for NASA. But that's how I did it.
And I like colors, so I do these color calendars, so I'll do like, this is the goal, like by November, December, January, and then break it down into the bite size, and I usually feel like that every Monday. I get up and I'm like, oh my God, and then it's like, okay, that can be put off and just throw that till, 2 weeks from now. This absolutely has to get done today because of this deadline or this phone call or this meeting or whatever. And the other thing is, as much as you can, and you have to be careful because there is a level of competition depending on who you're talking to, is if you can find some good mastermind groups, if you can find some good support groups. I've got a really good, I have 2 businesses, so I'm selling on eBay, which is great. I'm also an e-commerce coach and a social media coach. So I'm in a great mastermind group for social media managers, and it's great, and Carlos and I were talking about this. Social media is changing at such a rapid pace, so is e-commerce. But literally, like Facebook has updates almost every 5 minutes, they're changing. But it's the same thing with LinkedIn, it's the same thing with Twitter and with Pinterest, is to stay on top of that, because social media is an enormous help to entrepreneurs. Being in the mastermind group helps, because I'll just sort of jump in and somebody's posted whatever the new update is and what the skinny is on it, so I don't have to go read 10 pages on it. So to find groups like that are good and are supportive and are positive, not people whining and moaning, I find really helpful. And you can find those kinds of things. I don't know if LinkedIn has groups, but Facebook has a lot of good professional groups. I mean, usually they're trying to sell you something, that's okay. I don't mind you selling me something. I'm a salesperson.
Like everything that you do in life is an experience, and it's how you apply it to what you want to do. You got to just find a way to apply it. It's like I had sales associate background. I used to sell handbags when I was young, and then my finance. I learned how to do bookkeeping, risk management, and do research on finding where to do a business. So I think it's everything that, it's just your experience all together. You just need to know to figure out how to apply it. But definitely, it's a very overwhelming thing, and it's step by step. You know, you're not gonna figure everything out all at one time, but it's just a little at a time and everything will fall into place.
Give one piece of advice to someone who wanted to start a venture in your field, what would that piece of advice be?
My second part of my story is basically I was 22 years old. I had to leave my country. My mother was sad, my brothers and sisters were also sad. I knew that I wasn't going to come back. So it was a decision that I was making practically for life. And at 22 you wonder whether you had the vision or the skill to make such a decision. So I think that you have to, what drove me back then is just a dream and the passion to do something different. I knew that I wasn't pleased with my life and I needed to do something different. I wasn't aware about what. But I knew also that it involves a lot of sacrifice, a lot of passion, a lot of energy, hard work, and long hours. If you're willing to give up what you usually do, then it's fine. Then
You
it's
gotta
fine.
really want it, or it's not gonna happen. There are people that just sort of fall into stuff and I hate them. It was like the kids in high school that had photographic memories. I really hated those people because I had to work very hard to get my grades, but I'm really glad in a way I did because it stood me in really good stead. I'm an enormously blessed woman, but I'm also a woman who works her ass off. I regularly work 14-hour days, but I love what I'm doing. But because of that too, because I'm married and I have a son, I now have a grandson, is you gotta be able to put it aside too, because it can consume you, and I don't think that's a healthy thing. So, do it with great passion, but also be smart, and you are gonna make mistakes along the way. I mean, it's just gonna happen, you are. You're gonna buy merchandise that doesn't sell, you're like, ah, you know? And if that's okay, you're gonna do a social media post that doesn't get liked and commented on. It's like, okay, let's move on, let's come up with some content that does get liked and commented on. You'll create a dance that everybody hates. It's like, okay, great, they all hate this, let's move on. So, you know, rather than like, you know, overanalyze it and beat yourself up, just to go, you know, you'll design a shirt, everybody hates the color. It's like, okay, they hate this color, let's come up with another color. Is move on. When you read about any great business person, any great artist, what is it, Edison made how many boo-boos before he came through? Is just shake it off and move on. You know, don't overanalyze, don't make yourself crazy. And the same thing with starting it. If you're, you know, I'm waiting till X, Y, and Z, the stars align, whatever, stop it.
Plan out.
Just-
I think you need a plan out, okay? It's good to have a plan, vision, take your time, figure out what exactly you're doing, what you want to do. Also regarding partnerships and employees, make sure they have the same vision that you have. Because if they don't have the same vision, it's not going to work out. Especially I had a partner, did not work out. We had different visions somewhere in the middle, and it all fell apart. And it's very costly, just to let you know. So make sure they have the same vision as you. Job-wise, make sure employees are partners. Everybody know what their jobs are, because otherwise people are going to be stepping on each other's feet. And that's when all the argument starts. And lastly, an exit strategy. Just in case it doesn't work out, when to stop, when is too much money in there. You know, you guys got to plan that out first. It's not something to, some people might think is, you know, thinking about failing before you even start. But truthfully, it's a benchmark of when you should stop or give that up. You could always try something else afterwards.
I think the first is, there's so many products and services out there today. I think if you really create something where you're solving a real problem, and you have a unique vision for that, and the product or service is truly unique, it's something that people are going to want. I think that's going to be extremely helpful. And then second, however long you think it's going to take and however much you think it's going to take and that you've modeled out, I would multiply that by at least 2. Because everything truly does take longer and cost more than what your initial plan is. So you really need to plan accordingly and have the patience to kind of get over those initial speed bumps. So I would definitely say planning and having patience is critical to getting started.